The Crow, 1984. In case you were wondering where you saw me last. Hi, welcome back to my channel, and if you've never been here before, you better live her alone. It'll make sense. Today is one of those days where I don't really know how to do the intro the way that I usually do because it's a different kind of video. So we'll just cut right to the chase. Today, we are taking a bit of a deep dive into a film that changed the scope and the landscape of the horror genre back all the way in the 1900s. 1996, to be exact. The glory days, if you will, for people that are literally my age only. Turning the horror genre on its head, Wes Craven's Scream was a slasher movie unlike any other, with its often sardonic nod to the audience and inability to not be hyper self-aware. Scream created a whole subgenre of horror movies. The question that's been on my mind, as I'm sure it's been on yours, why is Scream so important to millennials specifically? With the new installment of the potential bastardization of the franchise on the horizon, heading to us this coming weekend, let's see if we can uncover the answer to that question, as well as crack the ultimate whodunit in this deep dive analysis of 1996's fucking masterpiece, Scream. Before we get started, if you wouldn't mind getting off your lazy ass for once and hitting that like button, that'd be swell. Like, your job here is not that hard. Maybe get it together. And maybe do the dishes once in a while you're at it. By the way, oddly, a lot of people have been saying to me that they enjoy doing the dishes while watching / listening to my videos. And TBH, I'm honored. Because personally, I like to use that time to listen to the screams in my head to find out if I can finally decode their messages. But this is also kind of like that, so it's a win-win. Seriously, do the fucking dishes once in a while. Anyway, today we're looking in depth at Scream and seeing how well or how poorly it holds up, as if I haven't watched it a million times in the past 30, well, not 37 years, I guess it would be, what, 27 years. We're also going to look at why it appeals so deeply to millennials and why we've hung on to it for so long. Because I didn't know until fairly recently how many of us millennials, like I'm technically an elder millennial, how many of us actually really like grabbed onto Scream and held on for dear lives. I thought I was a freak when I was a child watching Scream. And I was, but not for those reasons. I saw Scream the first time when it was released on VHS. It would have technically probably been 97 because it was released in theaters in 96. So I was 11, super desperate to see it because Courtney Cox, who little half-gay me was absolutely in love with, was in it. And I knew Courtney Cox from watching Friends, because who didn't? Honestly, thinking about that fact in particular being the driving force as to why I wanted to see Scream is kind of hilarious. I remember riding my bike to the local Blockbuster, which was too far and not where I was supposed to be, but I'd go in and I would just like swoon over the cover. There was little 10, 11-year-old me like, Courtney Cox. Just sitting there wishing I could magically age 6 or 7 years so that I could legally rent it. And then one day it happened. I got my period. My best friend, who is still my best friend and has been my best friend for almost 30 years, which is a disturbing thing to say out loud. Maybe this is just the video where I realize how old I am. Anyhow, we were having a sleepover at my house, which was a rare occurrence. We usually had sleepovers over at her house. But my mom agreed to rent Scream for us. And I will never forget the feeling of going to rent it, sitting down with a myriad of snacks and pizza in my bedroom, which was a loft at the top of the house, in the dark, with my best friend watching Scream for the first time. It is a completely visceral memory. I can see it. POV in my brain. I can see it. For whatever reason, in my mind, I remember it as movies would come out to rent and then would be available to buy shortly thereafter. I asked my mom if that's a true thing that I remember, and she said they usually came out at the same time. I couldn't find any evidence to the contrary, but I don't know why I wouldn't have purchased it sooner. And the reason I say that is because when I went to purchase it, I went to like a Sam Goody or a Suncoast or one of those stores that doesn't exist anymore, and they were doing like a deal, like a special cool little deal where you got to pick the cover that you got on your VHS. So there was this one, this one, this one, or the standard. I, of course, picked the Courtney Cox one. And then you also got a poster. I can't imagine like they were running this promo like weeks and weeks and weeks after like it went on sale. Like that doesn't make any sense. But I guess it really doesn't matter. It's not imperative to know that part of the story. Honestly, I wish I still had both. I don't have either. Because actually I still might have the VHS sleeve, but I definitely don't have the poster because I had stucco walls, and I don't know if you've ever tried to put posters up on stucco walls. It ruins the posters, okay? Don't get stucco walls. Also, a VHS is... Anyway, let's dive right into the movie that I could watch inside my mind with no problem. Wouldn't even skip a scene or a line of dialogue, but we'll watch it. Like, physically, we'll watch it. I don't think I necessarily need to give trigger warnings, because I think you can surmise for yourself that this is a pretty brutal, gruesome horror movie. I'm gonna cut out as much brutal gruesomeness as I can, or censor it, or what have you. So I'm gonna keep all those visuals to a minimum, both for your sake and the sake of my monetization. So let's get into it. Scream opens on Casey Becker, played by the always fabulous Drew Barrymore. And of course the scene opens with every millennial's absolute nightmare, a phone call.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes?
Who is this?
Who are you trying to reach?
What number is this?
What number are you trying to reach?
I don't know.
Well, I think you have the wrong number.
Do I?
It happens. Take it easy.
After a few more confusing calls, Casey and unsexy, sexy phone voice guy start talking about horror movies, directed by the director of this particular horror movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Halloween. You know, the one with the guy in the white mask who walks around and stalks babysitters?
Yeah.
What's yours?
Guess.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Is that the one where the guy had knives for fingers?
Yeah, Freddy Krueger.
Freddy, that's right. I like that movie. It was scary.
Wow, well, the first one was, but the rest sucked.
Till he pulls the classic dick move.
So, you got a boyfriend?
Why, you want to ask me out on a date?
Maybe. Do you have a boyfriend?
No.
Sounds like a lie, but okay.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
Chills. The first time you watch Scream, chills. What did he just say? What the fuck? What? It's like your first experience at Olive Garden. Maybe this is why millennials have so much phone anxiety. Eventually, phone guy cuts the bullshit and gets to the point of why he's calling.
Listen, asshole!
No, you listen, you little bitch. You hang up on me again, I'll gut you like a fish, understand?
While the Jiffy Pop on the stove burns in the time of accessible microwave popcorn.
Some kind of joke?
More of a game, really. Can you handle that? Blondie.
So full of fear, but not enough fear to hang up and call the fucking police. Casey plays along with the killer's game because what else are you gonna do? Turn off the stove? Call the police?
Look, you've had your fun now, so I think you better just leave or else.
Or else what?
Or else my boyfriend will be here any second and he'll be pissed when he finds out.
I thought you didn't have a boyfriend.
I lied! I do have a boyfriend.
His name wouldn't be Steve, would it?
How do you know his name?
Turn on the patio lights.
Oh, God!
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Please don't hurt him.
That all depends on you.
But eventually we find out that Casey isn't as well versed in the horror genre as we thought, because Jigsaw's predecessor wants to play a game.
I want to play a game.
Casey isn't very good at it.
I ask a question. If you get it right, Steve lives.
Please don't do that.
Come on, it'll be fun. Name the killer in Friday the 13th.
Jason! Jason! Jason!
I'm sorry. That's the wrong answer.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It was Jason.
Afraid not? No way.
Listen, it was Jason. I saw that movie 20 goddamn times.
Then you should know Jason's mother, Mrs. Voorhees, was the original killer. Jason didn't show up until the sequel.
And that's gonna be a fatal consequence for her non-boyfriend boyfriend she said she didn't have. Anyway, bye, Steve.
Poor Steve. I'm afraid he's out.
Now, I'm only showing you the R-rated version, and I'm showing it to you in a censored fashion. The NC-17 version of this movie has lots of bowel movement. No, that's not the right... No, he didn't shit his pants to death. That's not what happened. He was disemboweled. A lot of the content, such as said disembowelment, really gave Wes Craven a lot of trouble in the making of Scream. The MPAA, which is the Motion Picture Association of America, in case you're dumb, was pushing for an NC-17 rating on Scream, which at the time was kind of a death knell for movies, particularly horror movies, because not many theaters would show an NC-17 rated movie. If you don't know, the difference between an R and an NC-17 is that an NC-17 means that no one under the age of 17 is allowed to go see the movie. An R-rated movie, you are allowed to go see the movie if you are under 17 with a parent or guardian. They used to enforce that back then. Can you believe it? Wes Craven tried 9 times for an R rating on Scream. And eventually it took Bob Weinstein, yes, brother to the slimy sludge cup that is Harvey Weinstein, who unfortunately also has his greasy, disgusting mitts attached to one of horror's greatest, as Dimension was their company that produced at least the first 3 Screams. I don't remember if they produced 4. Anyway, so Bob Weinstein went to the MPAA, told them Scream was a comedy, and boom, they got their R rating. Mountain Dew break.
Final question. Are you ready? What door am I at?
What?
There are 2 main doors to your house, a front door and the patio doors. If you answer correctly, you live. Very simple.
Don't do this. I can't. I won't.
Your call.
So 1 chair through the glass, 1 tin of Jiffy Pop on fucking fire, some knives missing, and Casey's ready to fight. Or hide. Or stand outside. Anything instead of running or calling the police. You see, the phone is Casey's most powerful weapon. And it is also her greatest downfall because... What are you listening? Never mind. Casey finally tries to run, phone in hand still, but is ultimately caught by the killer, stabbed in the chest, larynx essentially shattered, and unable to call for help as she sees her parents arrive home. And she ultimately meets her demise while her parents are listening on the other phone.
Casey! Casey!
Call the police. Casey! Casey, you upstairs?
Casey, baby.
And after that horrifically traumatizing and tragic event, we're met with one of many references, nods, homages to other popular horror films.
Get in the car. Drive down to the Mackenzies.
I want you to go down the stairs and out the front door. And I want you to go down the street to the Mackenzie's house. I want you to tell them to call the police.
And in doing so, we witness the next case for this film to have received an NC-17 rating, but I will still be showing you the R-rated version, because in the NC-17 version, we zoom swiftly to the dummy of Drew Barrymore, also disemboweled and hung from the tree in her yard for a full view of horrific horrors and stellar gore makeup, and we really sit there for a minute, so. Drew Barrymore was the first actor that was attached to Scream, and that was a big deal because Drew Barrymore is Drew Barrymore. She's a Barrymore. She's been famous most of her life, and she was a household name. In the beginning, she was actually cast to play the final girl, Sidney Prescott, a role that would ultimately go to Neve Campbell when Drew Barrymore decided, wait, what if instead I played Casey and you killed me in the first 15 minutes? And what a choice. To kill off Drew Barrymore in the first 15 minutes after marketing so much of her in the film and having her face all over the poster, bold. A bold move and a good choice. Definitely had the effect that they were looking for. Also, during filming, they kept Roger Jackson away from the actors who would be speaking to him over the phone. And in case you couldn't infer, Roger Jackson was the voice, and still is, the voice of the killer, of Ghostface. You fucking idiot. During one of Drew's scenes, there was a power surge, which caused the box that they used to allow them to speak on the phone to one another in real time. And Drew ended up accidentally calling the very real police. Which is ironic, because that's the one thing that Casey Becker couldn't do. And also, just FYI, Wes Craven took the job of directing Scream because a kid at a convention was like, hey, your movies are getting soft. So way to go, that kid, who's definitely a middle-aged man by now. Or woman, or non-binary, whatever, you know. You're a middle-aged person. Good for you. How's my hair? Is it doing okay? Once we're done looking into the dead eyes of a hanged Drew Barrymore mannequin, we are introduced to the film's actual protagonist, and the final girl of all final girls, Sidney Prescott. As I said, played by the incomparable Neve Campbell, who only gets hotter as the years go on. We open on Sidney typing something on a computer that is absolutely the most 1996 thing about this entire movie. And she hears the sound of tiny broken glass in the distance. It's very tiny. Ever the final girl, Sidney, of course, approaches her open window in the dark to see what the sound was.
It's just me.
Oh my god, it's Johnny Depp Jr. Her boyfriend, Billy Loomis, aptly named after Sam Loomis, played by the late, great Donald Pleasance in 1978's Halloween. Because as I said before, this movie is nothing if not filled with references to other horror movies. What accent is this? Billy's sneaking in Sidney's window because that's what we were told as kids happened when you had a boyfriend.
What are you doing here?
Sorry, don't name me.
Oh my god.
Will you sleep in there?
Yes, I sleep in this. My dad is in the other room. You can't be
Gail, just stay a sec.
No, you can't make it. Oh, no. You go.
The door is useless and stupid.
I'm hitting the sack. My flight leaves first thing in the morning. Now the expo runs all weekend, so I won't be back till Sunday. There's cash on the table, and I'm staying out at the airport, so call
If I need anything, yeah.
I could have sworn I heard screaming.
Have a good trip, Kay.
Sleep tight, sweetie.
Much like The Notebook, Billy finally says those beautiful words every girl wants to hear.
I was home watching television. The Exorcist was on. It got me thinking of you.
It did?
Yeah. It was edited for TV. You know, all the good stuff was cut out, and it got me thinking of us.
Wow. Panties? But not for Sydney, whose panties are more like a padlocked chastity belt after the violent rape and murder of her mother, Maureen, the year prior.
Well, 2 years ago, we started off hot and heavy. Nice solid R rating on our way to an NC-17. And now things have changed, and lately we're just sort of edited for television.
Billy and Sydney make short work of the MPAA analogy before doing some
On top of the clothes stuff.
to the tune of Gus's exquisite cover of Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper, which is also a reference to 1978's Halloween.
Saw somebody standing in Mr. Riddle's backyard.
Probably Mr. Riddle.
He's watching me.
Mr. Riddle was watching you? Lori, Mr. Riddle is 87.
I know it's hard to hear, but it's in there. So Sydney gives Billy the old cerulean balls as she escorts him back to the window. She shows him her tits and calls it a night before a big day at school. Oh my god, why are you wearing that dress, Monica? I'm fucking blind. In the interest of the most expositional introduction of a character ever.
Leave the shit. Tatum, what is going on?
Yes, Tatum. What is going on? Tatum, what is going on? Tatum, why are you my best friend? And why are we here at Woodsboro High School, where many media outlets are also here? So Tatum fills Sydney in on the murders of Casey and Steve.
You don't know? Casey Becker and Steve Orth were killed last night. What? No way. And we're not just talking killed, we're talking splattered movie killed. Ripped open from end to end. Casey Becker, she sits next to me in English. Not anymore.
All the students are being questioned, and rightly so.
I mean, they're interrogating the entire school, teachers, students, janitors. Do you think it's school related? They don't know.
Principal Fonzie Himbry is extra gentle with Sydney.
We're going to keep this very brief, Sydney. The police just want to ask you a few questions. You okay?
Mm-hmm.
A little too gentle. Feels a little weird. On account of her mother's brutal murder the year before. Now, originally, Scream's high school scenes were, or Woodsboro High, if you will, were to be filmed at Santa Rosa High School in Santa fucking Rosa. Are you dumb? However, once the school board got a hold of the script, they were like, hey, fuck no. They actually had a town hall-esque meeting about it, and like a shit ton of people showed up, both for and against filming. Eventually, Woodsboro High would be played by a nearby community center with its SAG card, I guess. At the end of the credits, it would read, "No thanks whatsoever to the Santa Rosa City School District Governing Board," which is hilarious. Oh, I miss Wes Craven all the time. Anyway, back to the very real feel of teenhood in 1996. You know, where kids hang out on the quad and ride their bikes by really slowly, while the 5 main characters of the high school sit in front of the picturesque fountain and eat grapes. You know the type. Really takes me back. So Tatum's boyfriend Stu Mocker, and their friend Randy Meeks, the incomparable Randy Meeks, are talking very flippantly about the murder of their peers, while Sydney appears like very distressed and affected, probably on account of the fact that her mother was murdered the year prior. Have I said that yet? Only like 3 or 4 times? Okay, good. Just making sure.
They didn't ask me if I like that.
It's because there's no way a girl could have killed him.
That is so sexist. The killer could easily be female. Basic instinct.
That was an ice pick. Not exactly the same thing. Yeah, Casey and Steve were completely hollowed out.
How do you gut someone?
In the midst of Sydney's actual real-life pain, the group is softly pointing whodunit fingers at one another.
Hey, Stu, didn't you used to date Casey?
Yeah, for like 2 seconds. Before she dumped you for Steve.
I thought you dumped it for me.
I did, he's full of shit. And are the police aware that you dated the victim? Hey, what are you saying? That I killed her? It would certainly improve your high school Q.
Stu was with me last night, okay?
Yeah, it was. Was that before or after he sliced and diced?
Fuck you, nutcase. Where were you last night?
Working, thank you.
Oh, at the video store? I thought they fired your sorry ass.
Twice.
And in doing so created a line of dialogue so perfect I couldn't put it down for like the next 10 years.
Did you really put her liver in the mailbox? Because I heard that they found her liver in the mailbox next to her spleen and her pancreas.
Randy, you goon fuck, I'm trying to eat here.
Just getting mad, right? Better live her alone. Live her alone. Ow, liver. It was a joke.
It's so good. Sydney, understandably sad and disturbed by the day, and being like 20 years old, takes the bus home from school, where she's making plans with Tatum on what seems to be an obscenely large deck to stay at her house after Tatum gets home from cheer practice? I feel like that's right. And Sydney's reminded by the persistent trauma and blinding lime suit lady that a year ago her mother was then murdered. In case we haven't touched on that yet.
The bodies of 17-year-old Casey Becker and her 18-year-old boyfriend Stephen Orth were discovered late last night by the girl's parents.
The Woodsboro double murder case. Authorities are baffled by the lack of clues and the savage.
The town's in shock, and no one can quite believe what has happened here. Although this is not the first time this small community of Woodsboro has endured such tragedy. Only a year ago, Maureen Prescott, wife and mother, was found raped and murdered not far from this peaceful town square.
And this leads us to a perfect opportunity for a nap. Nah, kids, don't worry about that pesky homework. Or that murderer we have no leads on. Take a nap. It's called self-care, you know what I'm saying? I would also like to take this opportunity to talk about the score of Scream, because Marco Beltrami's score is so good. Just exquisite. Even the parts of it he used in Halloween H2O. And it made me scream at the TV. Like literally just copied and pasted. Like, wasn't that movie bad enough? I mean, good bad. Like, tragically bad, but good bad. You know? The whole score is really good. Sydney's Lament, which is this sort of like soft piano into creepy creepersons. It's sad, it's somber, it's tense, it's just so good. Marco Beltrami is a genius. Anyway, back to that nap.
Hello, Sydney.
Hi. Who is this?
You tell me.
Well, I have no idea.
Scary night, isn't it? With the murders and all, it's like right out of a horror movie or something.
Randy, you gave yourself away. Are you calling from work? Because Tatum's on her way over.
Do you like scary movies, Sydney?
Here's where this movie still holds like a nostalgic vibe, but also keeps the creepy alive for us, like millennials, Gen X and older, because we had landlines, right? Now, I'm sure people of younger generations, there are landlines that exist, but landlines were what we had. You know, we didn't have cell phones. So to know who was calling, you had to answer. Now, having to answer your phone in the first place now is a lot. But back then, we like mostly wanted to. And we couldn't see who was calling until caller ID became more accessible in the late 90s, despite it actually like coming to fruition around the late 80s. It cost extra. And personally, I couldn't afford caller ID for a long time until they started putting caller ID in the landline phones. And even then, I think it still cost extra. We did have Star 69 for a time, which was able to tell you who had just called you, unless they had used Star 67, which hid their number. You know, it was just a complicated time for the phone. What I'm getting at is that this movie really preyed on the fact that you didn't know who was on the other line, and that we were more prone to actually pick up the phone when it rang. It's like nowadays, if you get a phone call and it's like scam likely, I'm like, oh man, I don't know anybody named Scam Likely. I'm not gonna answer that. So you don't. So like, does that part of it hold up? Not so much. You didn't grow up with a landline. I think it definitely like makes that scary part of it a little less scary. But you tell me. I don't know. I'm old.
I like that thing you're doing with your voice, Randy. It's sexy.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, come on. You know I don't watch that shit.
Why not? Too scared?
No, it's just what's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
Sydney finally realizes her friend isn't pranking her.
Are you alone in the house?
Randy, that's so unoriginal. I'm disappointed in you.
Maybe that's because I'm not Randy.
Not a moment too soon.
So, who are you?
The question isn't who am I? The question is where am I?
So, where are you?
Your front porch.
Why would you be calling from my front porch?
That's the original part.
Nice try, Randy. Tell Tatum to hurry up, okay? Bye now.
If you hang up on me, you'll die just like your mother. Do you want to die, Sydney? Your mother sure didn't.
Oh god, we love a meta queen.
Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
Sydney's closet of convenience, either Tatum's or 911's confusing busy signal, an impossible police contact via a computer built for the Stone Ages, seems to summon Billy to his favorite Prescott abode entrance.
Door's locked. I heard screaming. You alright?
The killer's here. He's in the house. No, he's in the house. He's gonna go. He's gonna kill him.
He's gone. He's gone. It's alright.
Out of the arms of her crybaby and into the face of her best friend's older brother, Dewey, who's also the deputy and played by the masterfully goofy David Arquette.
I found this.
I love a good Arquette. I think a good rule of thumb here is don't take naps. Just don't do it. Billy's arrested on suspicion of being suspicious as fuck, and he's brought in for some pretty serious questioning.
Let me ask you this. What are you doing with a cellular telephone, son?
Now, that question may be hilarious in the year of our Lord and Savior spy balloons in 2023, but in 1996, this was actually a totally valid question. Personally, I didn't have my first cellular telephone until I was 18, and that was the year 2004. Because I'm elderly. It wasn't a thing everyone had. In fact, most people didn't have them. They were something that like rich people had then. But also, if I may, why the hell does Billy's dad look like that? Why does Billy think looking at Sydney like this will make him appear more innocent? Lime Suit Lady is finally identified as Gail Weathers at 30-some minutes into this movie, which is a bold move for their second most well-known actress. Gail is a reporter a cutthroat journalist who will do literally anything, morals be damned, to get the story.
Isn't there a back way out of this place?
Yeah, down the alley, I think.
You guys just stay here. I'm gonna get the car.
She accosts Sydney in the alley behind the police station.
There she is. Sydney! Tom Knight, what happened? Are you all right?
She's not answering any questions, all right? Just leave us alone.
No, Tatum, it's okay. She's just doing her job, right, Kim?
Yes, that's right.
And gets herself a face full of, I'll look for it.
So, how's the book?
Well, it'll be out later this year.
Oh, I'll look for it.
I'll send you a copy.
Oh! Jeez. Nice shot.
Delicious. Sydney then gets a call from the killer at Tatum's house, where she's staying overnight.
Hello?
Hello, Sydney.
No!
Poor Billy boyfriend. An innocent guy doesn't stand a chance with you.
Leave me alone! Who are you?
Don't worry. You'll find out soon enough. I promise.
Thus mostly absolving Billy of suspicion and giving Dewey reason to bring a handgun to the telephone.
What?
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 For some reason.
Hello.
The next morning, Tatum and Dewey's mom compassionately puts on the news that is specifically covering Sydney's horrific story over a bowl of carefully placed corn checks. Do they still make those? I don't think so.
Don't worry, Sid, it's school. You'll be safe here.
In other compassionate news, Linda Blair.
So how does it feel to be almost brutally butchered?
Hey, now leave her alone.
People want to know. They have a right to know.
Listen, if you have to start a sentence with, so how does it feel to be almost brutally butchered? Maybe don't start that sentence. That one's for you, kids. Just don't do that. We then learn a little bit about Sydney and Gail's history.
Stop right there.
I'm not here to fight. I just need to talk.
Kenny, camera now.
Off the record, no cameras.
Forget it.
Please. You owe me.
I owe you shit.
You owe my mother.
Gail is in the process of writing a book about her mother, her being Sydney, Sydney's mother's murder, which happened the year prior, in case I didn't make that clear. Cotton Weary, the man we saw earlier over corn checks, aka Liev Schreiber, aka one of the only men on the planet who still kind of does it for me. Anyway, Cotton Weary was convicted based on Sydney's testimony of the murder of Sydney's mother. But Gail believes that he was framed.
You got what you wanted? Cotton Weary's in jail. They're gonna gas him. A book is not gonna change that.
Do you still think he's innocent?
Your testimony put him away. It doesn't really matter what I think.
During the trial, you did all those stories about me. You called me a liar.
I think you falsely identified him, yes.
Have you talked to Cotton?
Many times.
And has his story changed?
Not one word. He admits to having sex with your mother, but that's all.
He's lying. She never would have touched him. He raped her, and then he butchered her. Her blood was all over his coat.
He was drunk that night. He left his coat at your house after your mother seduced him.
I saw him leave wearing it.
No, you saw someone leave wearing that coat. The same someone who planted it in Cotton's car, framing him.
You see, Sydney's mom has a whole storied past in the Scream realm.
An innocent man on death row. A killer still on the loose. Kenny, tell me I'm dreaming.
You want to go live?
No. Not so fast. We don't have anything concrete.
This is huge. You can't just sit on it.
I know. That's why we need proof. If I'm right about this, I could save a man's life.
Anyway, it's good to see Gail doing some good for her fellow.
Do you know what that could do for my book sales?
Never mind. Never desensitized and always assholes. The students of Woodsboro High enjoy making a joke out of literal murders, which, I mean, I remember the kid who yelled boring at the TV when we literally watched the second plane hit the Twin Towers on 9/11 in my driver's ed classroom. So I mean, not far off. That's a fucking true story.
You kidding me? Look at this place. It's like Christmas.
Billy, however, is fresh out of jail.
John.
Oh,
Jesus, shoot.
Back in school.
Still think it's me?
No, I don't. It's just somebody was there.
Hey, Christy, wait
Billy,
up.
someone tried to kill me.
I know. The cops said I scared him away. You know, it wasn't me, Sid.
And ready for Cindy to get the f over it already.
So, sorry, please understand.
Understand what? When I have a girlfriend who would rather accuse me of being a psychopathic killer than touch me?
You know that's not true.
Then what is it?
What is it? Billy, I was attacked and nearly filleted last night.
I mean, between us. You haven't been the same since your mother died.
And by it, I do mean the murder of her mother the year prior.
Is your brain leaking? My mom was killed. I can't believe you're bringing this up.
I know, it's been a year.
Tomorrow. 1 year tomorrow.
I know what. I think it's time you got over that.
But how can Sydney get over it when the girlies in the bathroom are conveniently talking about her?
She was never attacked. I think she made it all up.
How did she lie about it?
For attention. The girl has some serious issues. What if she did it? What if Sydney killed Casey and Steve?
Why would she do that?
Maybe she had the hots for Steve and killed them both in a jealous rage.
What would Sydney want with Steve? She has her own bubble butt boyfriend, Billy.
Maybe she's a slut, just like her mother.
How can Sydney get over it when she's being attacked in the bathroom, not by the girlies who were conveniently talking about her? Anyway, now that Sydney's done being a drama queen, it's time to watch a budding romance happen in real time.
Hi, Gail Weathers, field correspondent, top story.
I know who you are, Miss Weathers.
David Arquette and Courtney Cox met on the set of Scream. They fell in love on the set of Scream. It makes watching their scenes together extra adorable.
In a demographic study, I proved to be most popular amongst males 11 to 24. I guess I just missed you. Of course, you don't look a day over 12, except in that upper torso area.
Even in the beginning, as you see Gail's kind of leading Dewey on to get what she wants, like the heartless creature that she is. And over the course of the movies, you kind of see that transform with both the characters.
I'm 25. I was 24 for a whole year.
Arquette and Cox married in 99. They did divorce in 2010. And you can actually see that arc specifically develop with the characters over time as well. Anyway, back in desensitized teen world, murders mean citywide curfews and parties.
Impromptu party tonight. My house. Celebrate this little siesta. What do you say?
Are you serious?
Parents out of town. This little vixen doesn't invite the entire world. Be fine. Intimate gathering, intimate friends.
Because in real teenage dialogue,
What do you say, Sid? I mean, pathos could have its perks.
I cannot tell you how many times in high school I uttered the words, pathos could have its perks, right after I looked up what the word pathos meant. I think it's also pronounced pathos. Anyhow, in the spirit of weird, very specific cameos by Wes Craven,
Shits. Would you call me?
and Unnecessary Murders, the Fonz gets 80 66th right there in the school. Anyway, we're brought to another relic that exists only in our nostalgic minds, as Randy is hard at work putting back them pesky VHS tapes at the local video store.
Oh!
Now I personally, I was a longtime employee of both a mom and pop video store and a Blockbuster video, several Blockbuster videos, two different Blockbuster videos. And Randy's whole existence makes me feel very seen, except for the way he eats grapes and dresses, and the fact that he's a virgin. You know, maybe it's just the video thing. So Stu stops by the video store to ask if Randy will be coming to his party later.
Jesus, this place is packed tonight, man. We had a run in the mass murder section. Coming to my fiesta? Yeah, I'm off early. Curfew, you know.
And they spend a hot minute like ruminating about whether or not Sydney's dad's the killer.
Yo, I think it's her father. Yeah, why can't they find her pops, man? Because he's probably dead.
Or if Billy's the killer.
If you were the only suspect in a senseless bloodbath, would you be standing in the horror section? Well, it was just a misunderstanding. He didn't do anything. You're such a little lapdog. He's got killer printed all over his forehead.
But not long before... Oh my God, Captain Jack Sparrow.
How do we know you're not the killer? Huh? Huh? Hi, Billy. Maybe your movie-freaked mind lost its reality button. You ever think of that?
You're absolutely right. I'm the first to admit it. If this were a scary movie, I'd be the prime suspect.
We start to see the town shutting down for curfew to the tune of Nick Cave's Red Right Hand, which would serve as sort of Scream's musical mascot. Theme song, I guess, would probably be more of what I'm looking for.
You're one microscopic cog in his catastrophic plan, designed and directed by his red right hand.
It's a good song, and I always think of Scream when I hear it while I'm listening to the Scream soundtrack. And also Dumb and Dumber, because it's in that too. But on that note, I just want to say that, like, 90s horror movies have the best soundtracks. Take Forrest Gump away, take whatever is conventionally considered a good soundtrack, take them away. Get them out of my face. 90s horror movies is where it's at. Literally. I'll prove it to you. I will put a link to my 90s horror movie soundtrack playlist on Spotify below, and you can judge for yourself. But I already know I'm right, so get that.
God, look at this place. It's the town that dreaded sundown.
Hey, Sid, just think, if they make a movie about you, who's gonna play you?
I shudder to think.
I see you as a young Meg Ryan myself.
Thanks, Dewey, with my luck, they'd cast Tori Spelling.
Much like today, Tori Spelling was seen then as kind of the ultimate talentless Nepo baby. She had stellar hair on Saved by the Bell. This would also serve as nice foreshadowing for the sequel when Gail Weathers' book comes to life in a live-action movie called Stab, and Tori Spelling did, in fact, end up playing Sydney. While Sydney and Tatum are having a very 90s blasé conversation about the state of Sydney's V card.
Billy's right, you know. Whenever he touches me, I just can't relax.
So you have a few intimacy issues as a result of your mother's untimely death. It's no big deal, Sid. You'll thaw out.
Coining the term sexually anorexic.
Yeah, but he has been so patient with me. You know, with all the sex stuff. How many guys will put up with a girlfriend who's sexually anorexic?
Sheriff Burke, who's smoking a big fat cigarette and has a horse mouth when he talks, drops a bomb on Widow Ice Queen Dewey.
Thought you quit.
I did, but damn it. Dewey, Vital Phone just faxed this. Those calls are listed to Neil Prescott, Sydney's father. He made the calls with a cellular phone. It's been confirmed.
Seriously, why does he do that horse mouth thing? It's so fucking weird.
Well, there's no way a cellular could have been cloned.
Listen, Dolly the sheep was also cloned in 1996, okay? So cloning was kind of a hot topic at the time, but, like, it wasn't a thing that people could just do. Still isn't. I always thought like this concept of like casually cloning cell phones in this movie was profoundly weird because it's not something that became mainstream enough to be something that people could do.
There's more. Guess what tomorrow is? The anniversary of his wife's death. We'll keep the roadblocks and the curfew in effect through the night. If he's not picked up by morning, then we'll do a house-to-house. You stay close to Sydney. Don't let her out of your sight.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, time to party. Look at that 40-year-old man coming to party with high school students. Nice khakis, Jeff.
All right, girls have fun. Not too much fun or I'll bust you.
I think one of the other raging differences between like millennials and Gen Z is this idea of acceptability in various forms, but specifically here even from like late boomer / like early Gen X to Zennial and Millennial. This has changed, right? I think this is just something that evolves over time, like anything. Like Tatum's of age older brother, who is literally the sheriff's deputy, okay, drops them off at a party with beer and all of that during a citywide curfew because there are literal murders. There's a literal serial killer. And then just says, have a good time. Like, we don't see that much in today's media or like Gen Z friends, tell me, would that be something that happens in your life? Because like, I feel like that's a practice that's kind of died off where like, you know, I don't know. I could be totally wrong. I know it's kind of like an extreme example, but like, I feel like, you know, my mom would be like, okay, have a good one. Just stay in the house and, you know, don't do anything stupid. I'm old.
You guys are trying for the party, so we started without you, my man.
Oh, well, the party rages on, and the boys explain the appeal of Jamie Lee Curtis as a scream queen.
How come Jamie Lee Curtis is in all of these movies?
She's the
Gail and her cameraman, the incomparable Kenny. Everybody's incomparable in this story. All of these people, they're so incomparable. They show up to poke their nosy McNosensteins into the business of a bunch of literal children, played by a bunch of literal adults, to get the scoop.
We spotted?
I don't think so. Go get the camera.
And meanwhile, Gail is also using Dewey's interest in her as leverage to get into the party and to plant the camera, as well as to get information.
Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you.
Deputy, that's okay.
What brings you to these parts?
Well, you just never know when or where a story will break.
Not much of a story here, just a bunch of kids cutting it loose.
Then what are you doing here?
Just keeping an eye on things. I'm gonna check the party out.
Do you mind if I join you?
Not at all.
Here, let me just get my coat.
She's a bit. So Tatum and her nipples head off to get Stu a beer from the garage, and
Hey, grab another beer, would you?
Am I the beer wench?
Obviously no one else is around, so it's Ghostface time.
Is that you, Randy? And what movie is this from? I spit on your garage. Lose the outfit. If Sydney sees it, she'll flip. Oh, you want to play psycho killer? Can I be the helpless victim? Okay, let's see. No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel. I believe this is actually the first time the name Ghostface is actually coined. And arguably one of the best and most creative kills of the franchise. Certainly of this movie in particular. Tatum puts up a hell of a fight before she ultimately tries to escape the garage through the cat door, which Rose McGowan could actually fit through, so they had to literally nail her in so she would stop falling out. Tatum, however, could not fit through the door. And after fighting the good fight, Tatum turned into a Barbie after your
brother gets a hold of it. She gets her head squished in the garage. That kill f***ed me up for a while as a kid, I'm not gonna lie to you. And then I realized that they put a lot of sensor systems in place in garage doors, so things like that, if it were to happen, would be a freak accident, so... Anyway, the party continues. Oh my god, Sleepy Hollow. Stu works overtime, making Billy look less and less suspicious.
Oh, Billy, hey.
Billy! What are you doing here?
While Randy is bummed Lil Johnny Depp's back, because that ruins his chances with Sydney.
I was hoping I could talk to Sid alone.
But once you guys go up to my parents' room, you know, you guys can talk. Whatever.
Subtleties, Stu. You should look it up.
No, it's okay. We do need to talk.
What's Leatherface doing here? He came to make up. There goes my chance with Sid. Damn it.
Because platonic friendships between men and women can't exist.
As if. That's all I'm saying. As if.
Not in Hollywood, anyway.
Oh, really, Alicia? As if.
Gail notices the camera that she's planted has a 30-second delay.
You're a genius.
Oh, shit.
What? I got a delay.
How long is it?
I don't know. What'd it take you to walk from the house? 30 seconds?
It'll be fine, just record it.
Just enough seconds to be a fun plot device in about 15 minutes or so. While Sydney and Billy are upstairs, talking in words only Dennis Miller could understand.
I've been selfish.
Billy, I'm the one who's been selfish and self-absorbed with all this post-traumatic stress. I can't wallow in the grief process forever.
And eventually those words turn into boning.
It's like Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs when she keeps having flashbacks of her dead father.
But this is life. This isn't a movie.
It's all a movie. It's all one great big movie.
Why can't I be a Meg Ryan movie? Or even a good porno.
While the remaining party guests are downstairs watching the original Halloween in a nod to the original Halloween.
What is all wrong? Why do they do that? It's too red.
Have I mentioned yet that Sydney's mother was killed the year prior? This leads Randy to rattling off the most important rules for surviving a horror movie. Number 1.
You can never have sex.
Number 2.
You can never drink or do drugs.
And number 3.
Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back.
Meanwhile, Dewey and Gail take a romantic walk in the dark to find an abandoned car.
You're not scared, are you?
Down the road, while most of the party guests fuck off into that good night after finding out Principal Fonzie has been murdered and hanged, whatever. Either that or he was killed in a horrific shark jumping incident. That's one for my boomers. Gail and Dewey are in the middle of bonding over being misunderstood when they almost get run over by all those drunk teenagers that were going to see their dead principal.
I think that's just because you kind of like me.
You sure I'm coming fast?
Slow down. Freeze. Go.
Anyway, as I said earlier, the deputy just kind of like let them loose into the house party with all the booze. And that's how these two stumble upon the abandoned car they were looking for.
I'm sorry. I'm on duty.
Is that what you're looking for?
My whole life. Damn.
What? What is it?
This is Neil Prescott's car.
Sydney's father?
Yeah. Jesus what's he doing here? You gotta get back.
Of course, in the post-coital afterglow, Sydney questions Billy's one call from jail, wondering if it was him who called her at Tatum's house.
Who'd you call?
What?
Well, I don't know. When you're arrested, you're allowed one phone call, so I was just curious. Who'd you call?
Called my dad.
They should probably make that bed. That's absolutely gross. Whose mom and dad are gonna be so mad at him?
You don't still think it was me, do you?
No. No. I was just thinking if it were you, it'd be a very clever way to throw me off track. You know, using your one phone call to call me so that I wouldn't think it was you. That's all.
Billy does his best aggressive plea to Sydney with a face that could...
What do I have to do to prove to you that I'm not a killer?
Stop looking at me like that. Basically just trying to convince her that he's not the killer. Before...
Huh?
Oh my god.
Sydney.
Billy, watch out!
Oh no! Secret window! Sydney runs and runs and runs and hides in the attic from the ghost face that isn't Billy, climbing out of a really high window. And eventually falling conveniently on a boat in the driveway. And as Cinema Sins would say, Sydney survives this, but Tatum doesn't. One of the most absolutely iconic and meta scenes in this entire franchise comes from Jamie Kennedy sitting on the couch telling Jamie Lee Curtis to look behind her while he himself has a killer behind him.
Oh, Jamie. Watch out. Watch out, Jamie. You know he's around. You know. Oh, there he is. I told you. He's right around the corner.
Jamie, look behind you. Look behind you. Turn around. Behind you. Oh, turn behind you.
Iconic. The meta. Delicious. So Sydney runs and runs and runs and runs for help and stumbles across Gail's van, finds Kenny the cameraman, but so does the killer. Oh, God. Bye, Kenny. Thanks for the memes. Can I have your ruffles? Honestly, Neve Campbell must have been absolutely exhausted after filming day to day on this movie. The whole sequence of the beginning of this party to the end of the film is known as Scene 118. It was shot over the course of 21 days, and it has a runtime of 42 minutes on its own. The party was shot in a private residence just outside Santa Rosa, California. I'm sure a lot of you have seen like Dead Meat, and several other people will go take tours through the house.
Neil? Mr. Prescott?
Honestly, the only thing I truly hate about this movie is the lack of continuity of Halloween and how out of order it is as it plays on the TV. Dewey and Gail are rushing back to the house so that they can alert someone that they found Sydney's father's car. Dewey tells Gail to lock herself in her van and to call for help. In the process, Gail finds Randy.
911.
Let's go!
And Kenny. And Sydney. And a tree. And Dewey finds a big boo-boo.
Joey! Joey, where are you? Joey!
Sydney?
Sydney then, watching everyone drop like flies around her, is chased into the police car, which is a pretty shoddy police car. And thanks to the windows and door locks of yesteryear, it doesn't work out so well.
Hello, help me please. I'm at Stu Mocker's house on Turner Lane. It's 261 Turner Lane, please. He's gonna try and kill me.
Now there are so many nods to Halloween and various other horror movies in this movie, but the one I never hear people talk about is this one. Because it's a direct reference to this one. So just FYI, there's also a Halloween reference. So when Sydney inevitably gets away, as all final girls do, she makes the hard choice between Stu and Randy when she can't tell which one of them is telling her the truth.
Stop right there!
Don't shoot, it's me! I found Tatum, she's dead! I think Stu did it! Listen to him, Sydney!
Stay back!
Stu did it! Billy, shoot my Stu did it! He did it! He did it, Sydney! Please, I didn't do it! He did it, please! Please, Sydney, don't! Go! Please!
And Gilbert Grape rises from the dead. Only to—
Oh, he's out there!
No, give me the gun. Give me the gun. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Whoa, come here. Stu's flipped out. He's gone mad.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
No, Billy!
Oh my god, Ed Wood!
Corn syrup. Same stuff they use for pig's blood in Carrie.
Help me, please.
Surprise, Sydney.
And there we have it, the traditional two-killer finale. What would become the traditional two-killer finale, with a backstory nobody knew about. Stu and Billy, who have been kind of coined now as this potentially romantic-esque couple, just in theory, not in actuality, not in the script, but it's been theorized, reveal themselves as the killers, and that they had killed Sydney's mother a year prior, because if you didn't know, Sydney's mother was killed a year prior.
I'll never get away with this.
Oh no. Tell that to Cotton Weary. You wouldn't believe how easy he was to frame.
No!
Oh, where you going?
Why? Why did you kill my mother?
Why?
Why?
You hear that, Stu? I think she wants a motive. I don't really believe in motive, Sid. I mean, did Norman Bates have a motive?
No.
Did they ever really decide why Hannibal Lecter liked to eat people?
Don't think so.
Look, I take umbrage with this point, because Hannibal Lecter's motive was that he ate the grotesque and the rude for the betterment of society, according to him. It's entirely classist and very, very subjective. And yes, cannibalistic as but he had a motive. The Hannibal Lecter books are my favorite books. So Billy reveals that Sydney's mother was having an affair with Billy's dad, which caused Billy's mom to leave and them to get a divorce. Revenge. Boring. Just kidding. Matthew Lillard is absolutely perfectly bonkers throughout the entirety of Scream, but certainly through the entire last act. The spit, the middle fingers, the lunacy, the one-liners.
Your mother was no Sharon Stone. Now you gotta die. Those are the rules.
So these two crazies plan to frame Sydney's dad, but not before a little showboating.
You think about it now, huh? Your daddy's the chief suspect. We cloned his cellular. Evidence is all right there, baby.
What if your father snapped? Your mother's anniversary set him off and he went on a murder spree, killing everyone.
Except for Billy and me. We were left for dead.
Then he kills you and shoots himself in the head. Ready?
Yeah. Yeah! I'm ready, baby! Alright! Get up! Yeah, man, get up! Hit it!
To make it look like they barely survived. Now, in the NC-17 version, you actually see these two stabbing each other over and over and over and over. And in the R version, they have edited it sort of shoulders up, or they've done a one shot of Sydney, so that it's not quite as explicit. Anyway, their plans are foiled when they realize their gun is missing and it found its way into the hands of Season 3 Monica Geller.
You get the gun, and I'll untie Pops, okay?
Houston, we have a problem here.
What?
The gun, man, the gun. I put it right there. It's not there. Where the fuck is it?
Right here, asshole. I've got an ending for you. The reporter left for dead in the news van comes to, stumbles on you two dipshits, finds the gun, foils your plan, and saves the day.
I like that ending.
Yeah, me too. But Gail's plans are foiled when she didn't realize the safety was on.
I know something you don't. This is Gail Weathers signing off.
Yeah, me too. But Billy's plans are foiled when those idiots realize they left Sydney alone in the kitchen and she booked it out of there like a chicken at Colonel Sanders' house.
Baby, you're gonna love this. Shit.
What?
Are you alone in the house?
Even though Stu is dying right before our very eyes,
I think I'm dying here, man.
He's still the main source of comic relief.
Did you really call the police?
You bet your sorry ass I did.
My mom and dad are gonna be so mad.
Billy eventually finds Sydney. Or I guess Sydney finds Billy with an umbrella. Also, this part of Halloween happened way before the last part we were watching. Keith Ulrich's scream there was genuine because Neve Campbell missed the protective gear she was supposed to be stabbing with the umbrella, and she actually got him good. That'll teach him. Sydney ends Stu's reign of terror and ruins his living room in one fell swoop, and is ruminating on the big day she's had.
Sorry.
Oh my god, Malibu's Most Wanted. Oh god, thank god. Thank god it was.
Oh my god, Randy, I thought you were dead.
I probably should be. I never thought I'd be so happy to be a virgin. Fuck you!
Oh my god, Sweeney Todd. Sydney takes care of him with one finger in the wound. Gail finishes it off with one bullet in the chest. The sheer volume of female badassery and Scream. Love it. It is in this moment that we do learn the most important lesson of all.
Careful. This is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back to life for one last scare.
Sydney's cartoon-looking dad freed. Dewey still alive. Gail Weathers getting the ultimate scoop.
Hi, this is Gail Weathers with an exclusive eyewitness account of this amazing breaking story.
Close out the movie at sunrise. How poetic. Dewey was originally supposed to die in the original draft of the film, but Wes Craven encouraged David Arquette to give a little sign of life, a little gesture, to keep it open-ended. And that's where Scream ends. It was released on December 20th, 1996. A time of the year that would not typically bode well for horror movies, but it would go on to make roughly $173 million at the box office, and it completely revitalized, revamped, and resuscitated the horror genre. Movies from then on had a little less of like a don't go in there feel, and more characters who were savvy enough to not only have seen horror films, but to know how to behave inside them. So, back to the ultimate question, why is this movie so important for millennials specifically? Like I said, I was roughly 11 years old when Scream came out, and it's the first horror movie I remember watching start to finish. It was quirky, it was funny, and while it took horror seriously, it never took itself seriously. Yes, the 80s had horror, like Friday the 13th, and it also had friend group comedies like the John Hughes movies. We had, Now and Then and Clueless, among others, but Scream sort of took that genre and the horror genre and overlapped it in a way that felt oddly comfortable for us. And I think a lot of Scream's appeal is actually in nostalgia itself. The movie itself is littered with posters and movies and pop culture references. When I was sort of sitting with this, I found an article on a website called brightwalldarkroom.com, and they had kind of an interesting sort of deeper take on why this movie is so important to specifically my generation. I'll read you a little excerpt, but I'll link it down below in case you want to read it. Scream, then, specifically, is a grandiose metaphor for many elder millennials' identities. We held hands in our first lamest romantic relationships at the start of America's mass shooting epidemic. We celebrated our sweet 16s before weapons of mass destruction shaped the world's interactions. Took out heaps of student loans just before the Great Recession, and just as political and social progress began to filter through mainstream culture, glimmering a small dandelion seed floating on a light breeze, COVID-19 destroyed that hope like a child ripping the wheat to shreds before we could even utter a wish. We are a generation whose residual trauma of living through the ensuing chaos as adults still permeates each of life's benchmarks. When we revisit Scream, the concept of shattered expectations at each cultural touchstone is manifested on screen. From Ghostface's brutal on-campus killing of Principal Himbry, which rings a different bell now that we average a school shooting every 11.8 days, to Billy and Stu covered in blood and riddled with stab wounds, yet still managing to deliver a side smile as they tell Sydney they are the killers. The film reveals what we all suspected, that the worst terrors hide in our safest, most normal of spaces. And I think that's a really, really interesting point, viewing the whole thing as a metaphor. Like I said, I linked the article below if you want to read it. It seems like the author and I actually share a lot of the same views because I didn't read this article until after I put together like my commentary for this and like my thoughts and like my whole breakdown. Not my emotional breakdown. I actually read the article during my emotional breakdown. Anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts on pretty much anything. The new Scream movie comes out on March 10th, which is Friday for you, if you're watching this when it comes out. And yes, I am begrudgingly going to see it, even though they refuse to pay Neve Campbell what she's worth, therefore she's not in it. I mean, good for her. I applaud her for standing her ground, as she should. However, the audacity of these men who are making these new Scream movies to call themselves Scream fans and then not pay Neve Campbell what she is fucking worth when she is the representation of the entire Scream franchise. Bad call. Anyway, leave me your theories, not on Scream 6. I don't want to hear anything about Scream 6. Okay? Shut up. So leave me your theories on everything else in the franchise, on this movie, and whatever you got, how it, you know, its effect on millennials, whatever you got, leave it below. And just thank you so much for watching. You can subscribe for more debauchery, like the video, dislike the video. All the links for all the things are in the description below, including my Patreon. Patrons got to see this video early. My merch, my social media, all of that, that's down there. You stay tuned for the outtakes, okay? Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Oh my god, I really do look like What's-His-Nuts in The Crow.
He's my superior.
The janitor's your superior.
Whoa, Taco Bell.
Who's there? Who's there? I'm calling the police.
In the midst of Sydney's actual... am I okay? The students of Woodsboro High... The students, oh my god. I think one of the other, like, raging differences, ooh, Peter Brady.
Be right back.
I found an article on a website, Peter Brady.
Joey!